roles kind of shift in marriage and family and business. You just reevaluate what's working, what needs to change, how can we help each other. There are times where the dials of marriage, kids, family, business, they're going to get turned on and off at different times. When you are home, how do we make sure there's some quality time since quantity isn't there?
We'll have exit strategies with everything that we get involved with because we always begin with the end in mind.
How old are your kids now? Have they expressed interest in coming to the business at all? Strengthen the love, the legacy, and the lifestyle in your family business. This is Fearless Family Business. Most couples struggle to build a strong relationship, but Logan and Bostyn Brodine decided to build a real estate empire and a life together at the same time while working their W-2s. Crazy? Maybe, but also fearless. See what I did there? Hey everyone, I'm Adam Hill, and on today's episode of Fearless Family Business, I'm joined by Logan and Bostyn Brodine, spouses, business partners, and bold investors, rewriting what it means to grow a legacy together. And in this episode, Bostyn shared how roles in marriage and business aren't fixed. They evolve through seasons, and that's a huge takeaway. Because if you've ever worked with someone that you love, you know how hard it is to navigate friction without fracturing the foundation. This is an episode about alignment, growing fast, hitting walls, and choosing to pivot together rather than falling apart. And if you're a family business leader or partner looking to thrive through the dumpster fire of business and life, this one is for you. So don't forget to subscribe for more fearless conversations about family, business, and legacy. Let's dive in. Logan and Bostyn, so good to have you here today. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, so I love this concept of having people on this show who are spouses working together, but also, building lives together. And it's almost like you have two separate partnerships in that, but you're coming together and bringing this dynamic. So I'd love to dig into that a little bit and learn a little bit about you and your origin story. How did you both meet? Where did this whole thing start?
Yeah, so it started in Laramie, Wyoming. What was it, 2010? 2010-ish, somewhere in there. So I was doing a strength and conditioning internship at the university with the football program, and Bostyn was playing soccer there. So that's where we initially met, was basically in the weight room.
Oh, that's awesome. So were you in school at the time or college, or what was the age group around that time?
Yeah, I was attending University of Wyoming as an undergrad student athlete.
Gotcha. Okay. And at that point, what were you looking for career-wise? Were you looking to go into a career, become a real estate investor? What were your dreams?
We laugh about that all the time because even when we got married, I don't think we would have said, okay, in 10 years, this is where we want to be. Or this is what we want to be doing. I mean, this is not something we've ever had talked about originally. So at that time, it was just kind of graduate, and we wanted to be in the same state once I graduated. Logan had some job opportunities where he could go to a few different states. My family lived in Arizona, his lived in Nebraska. And I said, well, eventually, if we can get to Colorado, that would be great. And then he took a position out here. So we just were focused on following some real basic financial independent principles, right? Maxing out 401ks and saving and having, wise investments, but mostly just in the stock market. And when we stumbled into real estate investing through my sister, it just we took a real pivot that we did not really foresee. We weren't planning on that, but it's been great.
Right. Well, and that's an interesting dynamic you're bringing into it too. Is you say your sister introduced you to real estate investing. What year was that, and how did you all kind of get involved in that?
We bought into a property, our first investment property in 2019. We purchased a second one with a partnership in 2020. And then 2021, we bought a triplex or quadplex. And then at the end of the year, we bought a little small portfolio deal. So I remember Logan and Bree doing a lot of the talking and, discussing real estate. And I'll let you take it from here, though.
Yeah, it was so basically Bree got us into real estate. Like Bostyn said, we were doing the Dave Ramsey, Ramit Sethi. We were really like doing that in the W-2 world prior. And then Bree, she was into real estate and she approached us and was like, hey, this is what I'm doing and would love to bring you guys along. And so we had that conversation on what that would look like. So I jumped in right away. Bostyn originally was like, I'm happy with my W-2. You guys have fun. And then sure enough, she jumped in shortly thereafter because, as she says, she saw the sticky notes everywhere and the disorganization and saw her zone of genius real quick.
Oh,
and then
that's
2021, we, per usual, we're like, oh, yeah, this will be great. We'll acquire like one property every year. And then by the end of that year, we took on a portfolio of 6 single-family homes.
Wow.
And we've been nothing other than just scaling up and fast and hard since then.
That's great. And so that's an interesting, you touched on the kind of the organizational dynamic there. So it sounds like, Logan, you've got that kind of distracted visionary energy. And then so Bostyn, are you bringing in that organization kind of integrator energy to the relationship here?
Yes. And I think it's interesting when people talk about visionary versus integrator. There are times where you'll play either.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing that makes us really good operators is that we both can just get in and do the work. We're also, I think, on as we start to talk more about how do you balance personal work and a business with kids, you have to know that sometimes you will step in and be the visionary or even just the leader and the other person is support or the integrator, right, just playing those roles. But I would say overall where things have fallen is more into that integrator role. Also, roles kind of they shift. And I think one thing we've also learned, even as in marriage and family and business and, with some other careers, you just reevaluate what's working, what needs to change, how can we help each other? And those conversations happen more often. And it seems like the alignment stays longer before you start to kind of feel, a little bit of misalignment within various roles.
Sure. And how do you handle that misalignment when it happens? Because I'd imagine, it happens in relationships and it happens in business. And so for you, you kind of get that double whammy. So how do you manage that?
I think a lot of it, it's, you hit a frustration point, right? Mm-hmm. You do get frustrated in there. And then you have to communicate and you have to know. And something that I was even thinking about before we jumped on is really diving into communication, negotiation, knowing whether your partner is actually having a strategic conversation or an emotional conversation, right? Mm-hmm. Are we just venting? Are we problem solving? And a lot of it too is especially because it was Bree and I at first and then Bostyn jumped on, that made roles change substantially. And now we're looking into getting into alloy as well. And so roles will change there. We also, we scale fast because we brought on private lenders. And so, we all have different private lenders that have been interested in investing with us. And that those are different relationships for each person as well. So it's kind of it's a unique mix. And then there's also you'll have to be able to check your ego and shift and be okay with changing your role in order to get the job done and be successful.
Right. Yeah, I know it's often a difficult balance in some couples seem to struggle to just build a relationship together, let alone, build a business and a family and all of that stuff. And you've lived through a variety of seasons and getting to that balance question that you were talking about, Bostyn, which is coming. I see that the variety of seasons that you've been through, starting out, just starting out in your careers and then building into this real estate. Now you have kids and family. How have you navigated those seasons to make sure that you're getting the balance?
I think hiring coaches has been a huge part of our maybe coping mechanism, success. We've had personal coaches. We got a couples coach, marriage coach. Because seasons, I think it's really interesting. I've always thought seasons will be maybe certain age ranges. And while you do have maybe some stereotypical seasons, it also could be like a quarter or a month. Like, I feel like every first quarter of the year, there's just something that really doesn't go according to plan. Right. And it's like, we're in this season again. What is going on? Every January to March, there's something that happens. And so we can laugh about it. But at the same time, being able just to have like the awareness, if you can, when you're in it. And then also there are times where the dials of marriage, kids, family, business, work, they're going to get turned on and off at different times, right? Or up and down.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So then maybe checking in and like, wow, we don't have a lot of time with the kids the next couple of months. You have a busy work schedule. When you are home, how do we want to make sure there's some quality time since quantity isn't there? Just having some of those conversations and just the awareness around it.
Yeah.
And coaches, hire coaches.
Hire coaches. Yeah. I love that. The self-awareness is powerful, but there's only so much self-awareness you can have about yourself where you need the help from an outside perspective to say, oh, I'm noticing this. Right. So yeah. And so you've mentioned that you have business coaches, you have a marriage coach. Is that something that how has that marriage coach worked for you? Like, kind of tell us, maybe if you're open to it, kind of maybe walk us through that process of what that looked like.
I give Bostyn all the kudos on that. Really, when she found her first coach, she had very strict, like, hey, I want a coach, but these are the criteria that they need to check. I'm not just going to hire just anybody.
Right.
And so she really started to do that. And then we were looking, because we always do annual planning at the end of every year as a couple. And so we were looking at what Q1 of 2025 looked like. And I had on the docket, GoBundance trip to Snowbird, South Korea trip, a Nuremberg, Germany trip, and a trip to Pennsylvania. So, we had GoBundance, my W-2 job, and then real estate. And so in the course of 3 months, that's basically 4 weeks.
Right.
I'm gone. So I'm gone for a full month out of the quarter. So she had the foresight to be like, hey, we should hire a marriage coach before this season hits.
Yeah.
Because I think that was a lot harder. Like, when you look at it before you're about to hit it, it's like, oh no, we can handle this. It'll be great. It'll be fine. And then when you're in the middle of it and when you're on the back end of it, you're like, oh no, this is rough. Like, this is a lot more challenging than what I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hired a marriage coach, and that has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, wish we would have done it sooner.
Yeah, that's a super powerful insight, because it's this proactivity rather than kind of waiting too long till when you really need to heal through something and get, the marriage counseling, which certainly there's no disparagement against that. I mean, when you need it, but if you can be proactive and get the coaching to make sure that you're strong before and see some of those blind spots, that's huge. And for all areas, I mean, just hiring the coach, getting into that community is a big deal.
Just to piggyback on, the guy that we work with, his name's Paul Akula, and we actually, we had interviewed a couple people, and his name was brought up through the GoBundance network. And we've had a few sessions with him, and, each session we just leave like so much appreciation, clarity, like deeper connection. These are not comfortable conversations. Like, yes, we had the proactive foresight to show up at these calls. We have our own challenges to work through. And it's so interesting because a lot of the things that we work on in a session, we had to hug for like 30 seconds one session. And he was like, you need to hug, every day. That's like your homework, It's like you need those reminders, because if not, it's just like, good morning, good night, good morning, good night, and it's crazy. But we at least have an opportunity to practice sharing, maybe answering questions we've never thought about, listening to what our partner is saying, repeating to what we heard, then maybe getting understanding of what's being, said or not said. And that's just I've absolutely loved it. And the simple things, it's always the simple little things,
Right.
Logan's bid for connection, offering help, my just, oh, I've got it, don't worry about it, but there's a lot to unpack with just a very, 2 quick phrases.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, that's a whole other, big part of just these partnerships is knowing the style of the other person, of just knowing like how do you operate? How does each partner operate, not just in the marriage, but in the workplace or in the business. And I remember my wife and I had some coaching too, where we had that similar thing where we just had to look in each other's eyes for 20 seconds. You can't do that for like 5 seconds without laughing. It's insane, like just quietly and the awkwardness, but it's what you're resisting that you most often need. And that's so there's so much power in that. I'm interested in the family business dynamic that you're kind of building here, because, coming from the background of just of being partners, but also being in a W-2, now you've built this business. And Logan, you bring some experience from your personal side, from your family side, where you've, coming from a family farming background, where I believe you said that you're the 4th generation, not in the business, but kind of grew up in that dynamic. Can you maybe share a little bit about that history and how it's influenced what you're doing today?
Yeah, that in our family farm, in Nebraska, and my great grandpa Victor started it, and then my grandpa Ivan took it over. I'm honestly not even really that familiar with those dynamics, because the farms, you acquire more land, and then it's my dad and my uncle that are in it together as well. And so there's 2 of the brothers, and then my other uncle, the oldest one, he runs his own construction company. So 2 out of the 3 brothers still run the farm. And so now my younger brother helps out a lot. He sells seed full time, but he also helps out on the farm quite a bit as well. And then my older brother, he's an electrical engineer by trade, lives close to the farm, helps out when he can. It's definitely it's interesting to see how that dynamic with my dad and my uncle have been over the course of the years, and us as kids helping out here and there, but never really being in the nitty gritty of it.
Right.
Because farming was tough in the 80s, right? I mean, there was and then at that point, it was my grandfather, my dad, and my uncle all together. Yeah. So just to kind of see how that's going, and then what possible directions it will take now that he's in his 70s on the next step of the journey.
Yeah. What's and so kind of growing up in that dynamic though, did you have any Were you brought into it? Were you working the farm at all, or were you just completely off on the side of that, or not
Well,
really brought in?
yeah, I don't know if it's because the 80s were so tough and we did make it through. But I remember my dad telling me as a kid that he wanted us to help out on the farm, but he wanted us to go make money for a living.
Sure.
So he actually so that way he didn't play the role of dad and boss.
Yeah.
We would help lay pipe. We would help work cattle. We would do like a lot of the laboring things that they need help with. I mean, you're on a farm, so like the second you turn 13 and they can put a booster seat under you, then you can drive.
Right.
And so, we did some driving and stuff, but I actually worked construction in town. So I did some plumbing, which also transferred over to real estate, just having a little basic, like, hey, this is the culture of a job site. This is kind of what goes on. This is some things to look out for. So I worked a lot for a plumber all through high school and in college, but still helped out on the farm.
Yeah. Yeah. So your dad wasn't trying to like, hey, you need to come work for the family business, or this family business is here for you to work in. There was no pressure or anything like that?
No. He never wanted to pressure us to make us feel like we had to carry on the farm. He always wanted us to kind of go find our own path.
Sure. And how did that translate? So obviously, I mean, like within the plumbing world, that translated into what you're doing in real estate, but anything, from the dynamic of what you at least gleaned from the sidelines of the family business that you grew up in, does that apply to how you run your business or work together, maybe with Bostyn, or how you two work together, or how you plan for, the future of the business?
Well, I think on the marriage side, some of the stuff that we are learning is that, your parents do set the blueprint for how you view marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's just subconsciously or like you're consciously doing it, there's a lot of things that are set in your brain from what you observed as a kid.
Right.
I do think so. My mom is it's funny to look back at it now, especially being in GoBundance. I'm like, wow, my dad was a total entrepreneur and my mom ran an at-home daycare. Mm-hmm. She was a total entrepreneur and like has her own business, still works, still does it, still watches kids. And so like I start to reflect and I'm for certain there are things that I've taken just from being around that mm-hmm. and not really knowing any better. Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's always things that we kind of get from that, but and I'm curious, Bostyn, kind of from your background, what have you learned from your history of growing up that's applying to what you're doing now?
Yeah, my parents were teachers.
Mm-hmm.
You're right, career teachers for over 30 years. They were extremely frugal and smart with investments. They tell us that, when like Roth IRAs first came out, whoa, crazy, and they stocked money away there. And also, taught us joys of life, mm-hmm. going on trips, but staying within your means. So, and I know that's one that Logan also, we talked about frequently of like, that's a great value. Right. That we could pull from our families. In terms of like entrepreneur business and all that, we've talked, with my parents, and they didn't necessarily have, I don't want to say opportunities. Opportunities were there. Mm-hmm. My dad also grew up in Nebraska, farm, but did not like take over the farm. There was opportunity at one point to buy the farm, I think when my grandpa passed, and just didn't align with siblings and some other choices. So that is done. Their parents, I think, also kind of help shape like, well, here are your options for your future. Like, this is what, I don't know if it was like right or wrong type choice, but here are the professions that we would like, you to carry on. And so while they were amazing at what they do, I do, have had some fond conversations with my mom of like, what were other careers you thought would be interesting? What
right.
type of topics are you interested in? Like my dad loves learning about real estate and just the different business opportunities that we come across. So both sets of parents of ours are huge supporters and cheerleaders for us. And They probably think we're crazy. They don't tell us that straight to our face, but I do value their support and how they show up for us.
Right.
I think one thing we've also talked about is just as our kids grow up, being exposed to what we do, transparency, and also are we setting it up in a way where if they want to take it over, they can join in, participate how they want to, or is this the exit strategy of selling it off, taking that and have now opportunity fund, right? So,
right.
This is what we're building. I'm not sure if this is something they want to continue to build or maybe use their portion of it to go do something else. So
Sure. If you're a family business owner or operator and you're looking to get more control over your business, I would love to talk with you. I want to give you a special invite to request a free 90-minute workshop with me to learn the powerful tools of EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Just shoot me an email at adam.hill@eosworldwide.com. Again, that email is adam.hill@eosworldwide.com. I'll put that in the show notes as well, and I look forward to talking to you soon. And I'm curious how are you structuring that as far as that dynamic of, I know your kids are, how old are your kids now?
6 and 8.
6 and 8. So still pretty young, obviously, maybe not necessarily fully exposed to the business day to day and everything, but, or maybe not. Have they expressed interest in wanting to come into the business at all?
They come to job sites with us.
Yeah.
We talked about mortgages. We talk about rentals. We talk about, we both have W-2, so we go to work and what that responsibility looks like. And there's so many different ways to make money. We've also had conversations along what do you like to do? Sometimes what you like to do may not be the way that you actually make money, though. Right. So just not crushing any creativity. I think our daughter the other day said, I want to go work in the donut store. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
That's great. You could buy it too if you wanted.
I'll be a visitor for sure.
Yeah.
So those are great conversations. I think from the structure standpoint, it's, I'm curious how you're, I guess, structuring the idea of the planning section of that, 10 years from now, kids are getting towards adulthood. And, you've advanced the business to the point where you are. Are you structuring it in a way that it is exitable, or are you kind of structuring it for a transition, or are you just kind of wait and see kind of approach?
I think we've been in such heavy growth mode.
Mm-hmm.
We always have exit strategies with properties, right? And we'll have exit strategies with everything that we get involved with, because we always begin with the end in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But the big exit possibility, like to set up the kids, I don't think we've really structured that yet, because I think there's also the idea of, there's other things out there like infinite banking, things like that, like Bostyn commented, like, hey, how do we set this up as an opportunity for them as well, so that either they take on the roles as they go, and then we would, because the exit would be different if they're interested versus if they're not, or and the things along those lines. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think there's I'd love to explore a little more the concept of infinite baking and what you're thinking about that too, because that's something certainly that's viable. And I think that it feels like with regard to structure, there's always an incentive to build it to at least be sellable or at the highest value, so that even if you transition it, or if you want to sell it, you can at any time, instead of having to be forced into it. But I'd love to hear more about this concept of infinite banking that you're thinking through, in terms of, at least from the conceptual phase.
I don't know that much on it. I think it's mostly just from an overall high level. And I think it's similar to like what, they talk about with the Rockefellers and things like that. It's okay. Hey, how can we utilize the businesses and the capital that we've built to then provide our children with, cheap loans, so to speak, right? So it's then easier for them to start their own business, to acquire their own properties, it puts them at a strategic advantage versus the concept of, hey, we die so you win the lottery.
Right. Yeah. There's that, and that's always a big challenge within the family businesses. How do you prepare your kids? Kind of going back to that idea of preparation versus preservation. Are you building something that you want them to preserve, or are you preparing them to essentially launch on their own? And that's always like this legacy approach that there's the traditional view of building something to preserve, which is never preserved. You can't just preserve. I mean, families grow exponentially, businesses only grow linearly. So it's good to hear your thinking that way. That's interesting. And so kind of touching on that legacy side of it. What is your view on legacy? Like how are you thinking of the legacy that you want to build and put together for your kids?
Yeah, we're starting to have more of those conversations. I'd say probably on a more annual basis, right? Mm-hmm. Going to kind of reflection of the year versus vision for the next 5 years. And one common thing that we come back to is providing our kids opportunity. So, we have a rental portfolio. Those can get offloaded whenever or held on for, as long as we need to. Logan's spearheading our Alloy Gym franchise. That has a goal of we get one going and then work our way up to a few locations within a territory and then exiting that for, I would say like an opportunity fund.
Sure.
And so our legacy, I guess for the simple answer, because we don't have too in depth, is just to make sure the choices we make now could be flexible enough to allow for opportunity for our kids. Now, we both also agree we're not just going to hand them everything, right? Like we're going to be first generation wealth, if you will, in that sense.
Right.
They can find their own way. But they'll have the work ethic. They'll have to earn it. But maybe if there's something that they really want to do, maybe they need seed money through infinite banking, right? Tying it back to that, there's going to be those chances. We also have talked about, giving back to communities and things that matter to us. So at some point we'll need to learn how to set up some of those things.
Sure. Now you're both still in W-2s. Are you planning on leaving those? And what are you doing for W-2 now? I don't think we touched on that yet.
Yeah, so I work for the National Strength and Conditioning Association. So I'm a program manager for them. So anybody who's interested in being certified, who is a member through one of the different certifications, I head up the tactical strength and conditioning portion of it, but I can help out with any and all of that. So, and also I help with the other departments. I'll help out. I'll assist the marketing department. I'll assist the conferences department and help run the big conferences and things like that as well. So there's a lot of, and I think we've reshaped our thought process on the W-2s. Mm-hmm. And something I would actually like to, teach the kids as well is you need to think of your W-2 job as a skill acquisition. Like you're taking this job to acquire skills. And then once you acquire those skills, what are the next set of skills you are looking to acquire to help grow yourself as a person?
I love that. That's such a great insight to, especially in this next generation where we're traditionally kind of viewed of a W-2 as you get a job, you get a career, you stay there forever, and then you retire. It's evolved, and you're kind of playing into that. Yeah. And how about you, Bostyn? What's your W-2 now?
Yeah, I'm in the project management kind of space for Department of Defense.
Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, you can't go into too much detail there, obviously.
I mean, it would probably yawn,
Right.
you know.
No, it's that's fascinating, and I mean, just the fact that you guys are kind of still working in that and building this business on the side. I think we were talking offline a bit, and Boston, you classify that as a dumpster fire, like a lot of times. So just do you have plans on how you want to kind of rise above that, or maybe extinguish it and kind of build into a lifestyle that you want to live? What does that lifestyle look like, say, 10 years from now?
Yeah. Well, I think for anyone who's watching this and interested or listening to this and it's like, oh, you know, real estate's been fantastic. We've learned a ton and it's really given us the reps to feel very confident, right, for the Alloy franchise and other opportunities that are coming up for us.
Right.
You know, you do have to have cash flow. You do have to have income to provide for your family and take care of your needs as well. And so, you know, as we kind of look ahead, we'll make decisions on who will do what, right, in terms of our jobs when as facts come in, and those facts being like, how are we doing cash flow wise? Like, what is I'll say workload like across the family as like a whole unit? What are some things that need to change? You know, at least for my company, we're, well, in yours, like we're pretty flexible in terms of like working from home. Cause also like my main thing is I need to be mom.
Sure.
Right.
Right.
We get calls from the school cause the finger hurts and you're like, okay, well, I'll see you after school cause I'm not picking you up.
Right.
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 So, but being able to play that role, is really important, and to find a company or job that supports it is great. And our investments and our other businesses fall in line with it too. So, yeah, I think we just will take it day by day and see, you know, how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say too, to answer your question, I think that, you know, the overall vision is, and Boston said this best, is like, you know, we're looking for an abundance in all things, not just wealth, but in time. So, you know, the overall vision is to have the freedom of time to be able to do, you know, what we want, when we want, with who we want, with no limitations.
Right.
So and everything needs to feed that. And whether it's a stepping stone to get there or a springboard, time will tell. But it's all leading to that path.
That's amazing. And how are you compartmentalizing that? So working together, you know, finding time for each other. I mean, I know we talked a little bit about the marriage coaching and all this kind of stuff too, but how do you find time together, just to be together as husband and wife, as partners on that front?
Well, I think we're going to maybe invent a new concept, but we have coffee dates at like 5:45 in the morning.
Yes.
So, you know, we have a high school track right across the street. So we'll go walk in the morning for, you know, 30 minutes. Maybe we'll just sit down you know, doing homework for our marriage coach. But we'll do that like 5:45, 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning, you know, and that I've really enjoyed. When we don't find the time to connect in the morning like that, I've noticed our weeks they feel a little heavier.
Sure.
Maybe a little more distant, still good weeks, but yeah, that's I think our little life hack that we've stumbled upon.
Yeah. Cause I think, you know, as any couple in business with kids, or, you know, all of it, or just one or the other, you can plan as many date nights as you want, but babysitters will cancel, kids will get sick, like you name it, it can happen.
100%.
You know, or like for some reason your business is on fire, right? And it's just like, you gotta put out that fire. So the mornings, and it's just similar to why people work out in the mornings. There seems to be nothing goes wrong at 5 a.m.
Right. It's so true. Yeah. Own your morning. The first thing you do in the morning is yours. At least you have that. I love
Yeah.
that. And,
You can lock the door and not have anybody knock on it. So
right. Exactly. That's what they've developed locks for. No, I love that. And I just think the power of small amount of intentional time is so powerful, consistently practiced. And I love how you put that, Bostyn, the way that, the weeks feel like, you've almost got that reinforcing data of when we don't do it, it feels heavier. And so just keeping that time, it being intentional, that's huge. So I'd love to hear about this Alloy, the gym franchise that you're talking about, because I know I've heard from Logan a little bit on the side of this of what you're doing. Care to share a little bit about that and what you're doing there and the next project you're building?
Yeah. So this is the next, I don't want to call it the next adventure because we're still building real estate.
Right.
And I think that's the power of the three of us, right? Is that we can then now once again shift roles to, and we're at the beginning stages, right? We're getting LOIs out on locations. We're going to get our first location up here and running. And so the next endeavor though is going through being a franchisee
mm-hmm.
in a gym. And it is, we went through the whole process of it. I really enjoyed that it is a small group personal training gym that is designed for people. They say 40 and up. I would even say, your 30s and up.
Yeah.
Because like most of your big box gyms, they're for your 20 somethings, 30 somethings, and this is designed for people who are in the market for personal training
mm-hmm.
and they live busy lives. So they need to say, hey, I'm scheduling my gym time. And when I show up, I need to have available equipment. I need to be able to get in, get my workout done, and then go on to my day.
Yeah.
And so that's really the target demographic, whether it's a C-suite individual, an entrepreneur. Yeah. So I think it was like that really spoke to me, especially because I'm that demographic.
Right. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, I can't tell you. I mean, joining a gym and having a job, it's like, yeah, 5 o'clock, if you're going to go to the gym and you expect to get the bench to do bench press or whatever, it's like, good luck. You probably got someone sitting on their phone or something on that seat for 30 minutes. It's like, how do you, so I love that. I like that model. And yeah, so where are you at on that? Are you just putting out the LOIs now, looking for locations? That's where you're at?
Yeah, we, per usual with anything in business,
mm-hmm.
there's a learning curve.
Right.
And so we actually had an LOI out. We thought we were locked in. I was like, oh, I wasn't even looking at other properties. He's like, oh no, we're good. This will be great. Mm-hmm. Well, then come to find out, I didn't realize that anchor stores themselves can be in arguments with the owner and then have enough sway to deny other businesses. Mm-hmm. So we are like, that's evidently a thing. And we talked to our broker. And so we're still in negotiations with the area because it actually has nothing to do with our business and us. It's mostly they're fighting a fight and, for some reason that empty vacant spot is the residuals of it.
Oh my
so like
gosh.
that would be a learning lesson that we had, but we're also looking at other locations. We got other LOIs out now. So we're excited. I'm excited to get started. I would say another lesson learned is you never know, like you join it and you're like, oh, this would be great. We'll get a location and it'll take like a couple months and then we'll be on the ground sprinting. Mm-hmm. And then 8 months later, we're still applying for LOIs.
Right.
Because it depends on the market. It depends on the territory and, things like that as well.
Yeah, the markets. I mean, especially now, it's so crazy to try and find anything, and the fact that you do have something lined up that you're building towards, just getting in the way of it sounds like nosy neighbors and in the HOA, so to speak. That's a challenge, but no, that's really great, and good luck to you on that front, and I hope it comes to fruition. In the way that you want it. And I know that both of you are involved in communities. We've talked about coaching, but GoBundance is a big part of your lives as well. Both of you, I mean, Logan from your side, GoBundance Men, Bostyn from your side, GoBundance Women. How has that experience been from you? How long have you been in the groups, and what's the experience been like for you?
I always love to tell this story. I don't know how much Bostyn loves me to tell it, but I was still doing strength and conditioning. I was still coaching, and we were really diving into the entrepreneur world and, diving down bigger pockets, all that fun stuff. And I came home from work one day, and Bostyn looks at me. She's like, "Hey, I'm signing you up for something." I was like, "What is it?" And she's like, "It's called GoBundance. You'll fit in. You'll do great." And I go, "Okay, what is it?" And she's like, "You just need to sign. I already filled everything out." And I was like, "Okay." And so signed, interviewed. Luckily, they let me in. And so now 3 years later, I absolutely love it. I think the relationships, like getting to know people like you, surrounding yourself with healthy, wealthy men who are trying to grow and build a life of abundance. Mm-hmm. And that's who I want to surround myself with. That's who I want to surround my kids with, my wife with. Like, that's people who are just constantly trying to be a better version of themselves in all aspects of life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Bostyn, and so you signed Logan up before you signed up, or were you already a member?
Nope. And I don't know like the full history of GoBundance Women and GoBundance Men. I did notice at the time that I signed him up, maybe it was like 2021, 2022, but they had a GoBundance Women's page, but it was down and you couldn't apply. But we had shared that with Bree, my sister, and she shortly joined the women's side after Logan. And I just kind of figured I've got 2 out of the 3 of us in there. I'm good. I also was a little nervous because it was like, I'm a mom, I work, I'm not like fully in this world. Maybe you have to be kind of more full time. So it took me a little longer to join based on some of those stories I was telling myself. And mm-hmm. I absolutely have appreciated the group. Whenever there's a challenge, a question, that's the first go-to network is, let's go throw it in the GoBundance Women group, see what they have. I've been able to find people who love their careers and have great investments and a family life, like things are possible, not always easy. So to be able to have, my friends, my girls that I could go to, I've also loved connecting with the GoBundance Men's wives or partners, like Marie, having to, connect with your wife, Adam, has been like really amazing. Like, I don't know how I'd get these opportunities if we weren't in these groups. So, right. Just really appreciative of that, because having friends as an adult is very difficult.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
Like, what do we talk about? I don't know. Real estate? Nope. Okay. Well. Right.
Yeah, it's so hard. I mean, especially when you have diverging interests and everything. But yeah, in these groups, I mean, you have people that understand your pain or understand your success and can celebrate with you in some ways, instead of maybe looking at it in a way that they don't understand. So that's powerful. And I appreciate you both sharing that story and sharing your story here. And I can totally relate to that idea of maybe I don't belong. I from somebody whose wife signs his GoBundance check, I can totally understand that as well. But I appreciate you both being on this show, and where can people reach out and get a hold of you if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, for me, Instagram is the easiest. It's just at Logan Brodine, and I respond to messages on there. So if anybody is interested at all, you can just hit me on Instagram.
And then Instagram for me as well, at Family of REI.
Family of REI. All right. And I'm guessing that's real estate investing, not the brand, right?
Yes.
That's
yes,
awesome.
Correct.
Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for being here, Logan and Bostyn. You are amazing. And I'm so glad that I get to have you both in my network because you've just enriched my life as well. And I know this episode is going to enrich the lives of others. So I appreciate you being here. And thanks for joining me.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
All right, everybody, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend. If you feel like you got something from it, please don't hesitate to just put it out there. It helps get the word out for family businesses everywhere. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.